So what I'm told, I could be incorrect about this, but what I'm told is one of the last tweets that Meatloaf put out before he got seriously sick was something to the effect of, I'd rather die a free man than live under the oppression of this government. And, I just thought that's so weird to say something like that, because death is the ultimate loss of freedom. Your life's over. And did that make you freer? I would do anything for love. Would you get a vaccine? But I won't do that. Try not to die. Oh no, I won't do that. Or on a freedom convoy. Yet, I think it's an improper use of the word freedom. Freedom doesn't come from changing of a government policy or not. Furthermore, I don't even blame the Liberal government for the policies that we're living under. I think that's misdirected. No, I'm not an apologist for the Liberals. I pretty much hate all government parties the same. Thing is, I'm freer than you. I've chosen freedom in my life. You want freedom? Come out and spend 5% of the time I spend in a year out in the wilderness. That's where freedom lies. Freedom's in the mind. Freedom is something you choose or don't choose. You can't say you're for freedom, but you're addicted to smokes and alcohol. Say yes to every stupid thing your boss asks you. You're paying rent to a landlord. Your idea of freedom is funny to me. When First Nations protesters get swept up by the cops, you're not for freedom then, are you? Your definition of freedom's quite narrow. When it was us protesting, you said, I hope the cops get them terrorists. You weren't for our freedom. What were we protesting for? Cuts against disability, cuts against welfare, changes to housing policy and regulations. Where my idea of working for freedom is working for the greater good of freedom, not just what's my inconvenience or what's my personal vendetta with the world. I always think it's weird when people define themselves along some grand slogan. However, their commitment to the greater, what the slogan could mean, is very limited and narrow. So I'll give you an example, like the freedom convoys like that to me. When you have neo-Nazis waving flags on Parliament Hill, those people have never been for freedom, not for everybody. They're for race war. That's not freedom. If you have common cause with people who think like that, you got to stop and ask yourself, what am I really in for here? Another good example I found of that narrow definition would be, say, pro-lifers. I mean, one time I came across them people at Commercial Drive every Friday day afternoon. They have their little pro-life picket. And I said to the one old lady, I said, well, hey, I can get behind pro-life. So what's your opinion on war, climate change? What's your opinion on poverty? What's your opinion on the third world? What's your opinion on preventable disease? What's your opinion on cruelty to animals? What's your opinion on destruction of our environment? And she said to me, what about the children? And I realized there's no point in having a conversation with someone who isn't willing to consider a greater picture. They have one issue they're upset about. So they use this grand language. We're for freedom, but you're not for my freedom. My freedom's right here in the wilderness. I'll tell you something, the pandemic hasn't changed my life a whole great deal. I live in the mountains. I'm alone a lot. I come out, I work in the bush where I have no bosses looking over me. If I have a big day and walk 8 kilometers, no one says, hey man, that was a big day. And if I have a bad day where I walk 4, no one says, hey man, that was a bad day. So my job itself's pretty free. Here in the wilderness is freedom. Freedom from my mind. There's no one talking at me. There's no drama. There's no office politics. It's just me walking around with the GPS and looking at maps. I'm free. When it came time I don't care what the government says. I haven't been paying attention, honestly. I'm double vaxxed and I don't have a vaccine passport because I don't go to bars. I don't go to restaurants. I don't live in civilization. I don't care. I don't need any of that shit. Most of what it allows me to do is go spend money in places I don't even waste my money. So who's more free? When the government said, hey, we've approved this vaccine, try it. And I said, might as well, I don't care. I'll be freer if I don't get sick and die. I went through a lung disease that nearly killed me once in my life already. Thank you, Center for Disease Control, for saving my life. And if they're suggesting, can you take these simple measures? Can you wear a mask? Well, fuck, I don't care. What big difference does it mean? I'm hardly in town as it is. Sure, I'll put a mask on. You know, I'll set a good example. Will you get this shot? Well, I got the AstraZeneca. It wasn't the greatest, apparently. And I did consider myself a test subject at the time. Like, well, I guess it's brand new. We'll see how it works. But yeah, nothing bad happened. It hasn't changed my life a great deal. I come out to the wilderness and walk around and I'm free. My mind is free. My body's free. Whether or not I have to wear a mask or whether or not I want to go sit in a fancy restaurant, that's got nothing to do with freedom to me. It hasn't changed my life at camp. It hasn't changed my life at home. It's changed my life when I go to the grocery store. I put a mask on to be respectful of others who maybe have grandparents that could die. Epidemiologists, doctors, scientists, professionals, microbiologists, you know, these people are telling me that a vaccine will lower the risk of dying from COVID. But there's these guys I know at camp from, they didn't pass high school or grade 9 science or math or anything, but they tell me COVID's not a dangerous disease. So I don't know who to believe anymore. I don't let those doctors and scientists come out here and tell me what's what in the wilderness, and I don't go into their office and tell them what's what either. I got what I do well, they do what they do well. That's how it is. So you can't say to me, it's not a deadly disease, it's only killed 33,000 people in Canada. Well, what you've just done is prove that A, the health measures we've been using have had an effect. If 33,000 people have died with vaccines, with masks on, what does that tell you? It's a deadly fucking disease, fool. So your evidence that it's not deadly is also the evidence that Health Canada's program has worked. Keep in mind, those people in Health Canada that are making those decisions, they're not the Liberal government. They are civil servants and career professionals who know what they're doing. And they're taking guidance from the World Health Organization and other places and trying to apply it to Canada as best they can. And the Liberal government, sure, it's rubber stamped most of those policies, but these aren't liberal policies. Free your mind of that bullshit. Free your mind. You want freedom, then you gotta... The cause of suffering is desire. And so think about what you desire. I've been challenging myself lately. I'm in my 40s. I'm a single dad. I work a lot. I've been challenging myself to let go of the need to feel loved, of the need to be part of something, of the need to be accepted and belong. I just feel like with how much time I spent in the bush and a failed marriage, and then after that I lost the love of my life. I don't feel like I have any business trying to prove to anybody that I'm good for them. And I don't have a cell phone per se, like I don't have a cell number. I can't go on dating apps because they want to call you and text you to make sure you are who you are. So I have no real way to meet anybody. And it causes me suffering, that feeling of loneliness in the wilderness. It causes me suffering to know that's out there and it's something I could have had in my life and don't have now. So I'm trying to let those feelings go and just exist. Just be a guy walking in the bush, be like a wild cat. My ears are open, my nose is open, my eyes are open, my hands feel. I'm without thoughts crowding my mind. I'm just existing and experiencing this place as it is. But you know, this is a free country. You can't tell me it's not. You can't honk your horn for 10 days and not get dispersed with tear gas, drive across the country, and then tell me you aren't free. That's horseradish. There is rules. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. Honestly, the mandates have made no fucking difference to my life. I haven't paid attention. It hasn't changed whether I go out or not. It hasn't changed if I'm going to go to a restaurant or not. I didn't get a vax passport. Don't care. I don't pay attention really when the mandates are on or off. I just keep doing what I do. And I'll put a mask on. I don't care. It doesn't make any difference to me. I'm free enough that those small things that seem to make sense and seem to be effective aren't oppressive to me. There may be inconveniences at most. And if you're finding yourself not free right now, the question is, what can you do for your own life that will make you freer? Sure, there is countries out there with dictatorships and where you'll go missing in the middle of the night if you were fighting against the government. Well, the one reason why the government never cracked down on the convoy is because you weren't a threat. That's why you're getting away with it. When it was us socialists standing there in front of the G20 and again at the G8 summits, and we were in Ottawa, on the first day we were getting tear gassed because they saw what we were opposing as a credible threat to the bigger plan. Capitalism's end goal of getting bigger, stronger, organizing itself. for its own wishes and needs. A lot of the freedom convoy really is just a doubling down on conservative ideas, which is a doubling down on a political party, a government system, is doubling down on the mentality of capitalism, me first. It's not in opposition to the system. You're not free thinkers. You're saying all the same slogans. It's a fad of I think for myself. And like all fads, there's fuck all truth to it. There's fuck all meaning. It's not deep. It's intellectually empty. It's a fad. It's going around. Everyone's saying freedom. And you're not free. You don't even try to live your own life freely. You don't care about the freedom of others. You don't care about those who got sick and had to suffer and die because someone in their life said the disease isn't real and brought it home. They had the ultimate loss of freedom. Death is the ultimate loss of freedom. If you believe in freedom, you want to see everyone live, everyone do well, everyone succeed as best you can, as best they can. So as for you Wexit people, BC's untreated sovereign native territory. You can't Wexit from something that you have no right to own in the first place. And when the elders tell me to think otherwise, maybe I'll consider why they're saying that. As for now, I believe I'm a free person, very free. The things that I'm not free from are out of my control. There are things that were decided in family court. Those are things that are decided by the economic situation I'm in. There's not much I can do about some of those things. Doesn't mean I have to walk around pissed off and miserable. I'll just find a way in my mind to make the best of what I got. So at one time I was a real slave to my trauma and my depression. I was addicted to it, I think, in a way. And now when I have that negativity try to take over, I just push it away and say, you know what? Yeah, that could be true, but I'm going to try to make it not true. I'm going to try to live the best I can, the happiest I can, make the most of, making lemonade. You can't tell me you're a free thinker, but then have the same answer for everything, every time. So I'll give you an example. I don't trust the government necessarily because they are on the side of capitalism. So they're not in line with my interests as a person who's grown up poor necessarily. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. So I try to assess everything, every issue, every topic, every situation individually and uniquely. And that's, step one to thinking for yourself is no blanket solutions. So I'll give you an example. When weed was illegal in Canada, I said that's nonsense. Weed's awesome. The government's wrong. I'm going to smoke weed anyways. I don't care what they think. And then when the government turned around and said, okay, weed's legal now, I didn't say, well, the government's always wrong, so I'm not going to smoke weed anymore, because if the government says smoke weed, then they must be wrong. No, I said, right on, good policy change, finally overdue. Let us smoke our weed. In my own freedom, I didn't care what they said at one point. And when they came along to a better policy, I still didn't really care what they said at the time. But now that I've been going to weed stores for years and getting consistent, high quality, cheap bud and just walking in and having selection, and it's, nothing crazy or illegals going on. My friend Ross Rebagliati is getting into the business. He's going to have a huge grow show and do well, and I'm happy for him. And, and a lot of things about the new way it is, I find awesome. So I'm not at all going to say, well, the government's always wrong, because hey, they made weed legal. So they were wrong, and then they stopped being wrong. So you can't just say government's always wrong. Think for yourself. Every situation, every government that forms, every political party, every individual in it has their own strengths and weaknesses, their own things that you can align yourself with or not. You can't paint it all with the same brush. Never in the history of humanity has there been a society so affluent and privileged as the one we find ourselves in. Can you imagine that there's people in the world right now who, when you're driving around in a freedom convoy, wish that they could be in a vehicle once in their lives? You have a society now where you can go to a grocery store or a restaurant and get anything in the entire world you want to eat. Food that comes from continents away, from summertime down under. Food that comes from the other side of the world. Anything you want to eat. You're so spoiled and privileged. And you're whining about freedom. People around the world don't have that freedom. Some people are living on rice and a few vegetables. That's their daily meal. while you complain about not being able to go to, the bar and get drunk because you don't want to get vaxxed. It's a completely skewed, spoiled, privileged, pouty fucking idea of freedom. Rich white guys be like, I'm something of a, hey, I'm something of a victim myself there. Most of you, the most oppressive thing that's ruling your life is your own damn brains, your own stupidity. That's the most oppressive thing going on. It gets you into the most trouble. It's kept you from succeeding. It's kept you from becoming successful in the way you believed one day you could have been. It's got you divorced. It's got you married to the wrong person. It got you in the wrong job. Your stupidity has been the most oppressive thing you've had to live with. But you're not wandering around going, down with stupidity. You're engaging in more of it. Anyways, you want freedom? Come to the wilderness. I have so many times in my life when things weren't going well at home, I walked out the door and went to the bush. I just laid down on a rock and slept. Because I don't care. I don't feel fear here. I'm not afraid of animals. I'm not afraid of aloneness. I'm not afraid of silence. I'm not afraid of hunger. I go hungry all the time. Sometimes I let myself go hungry and just don't feed myself. Not for any good reason. Just like, wow, it's just a little bit of hunger. I don't need to be full all the time. That's the Canadian idea of hunger. And that's probably why at almost 43 years old, I'm in better shape than a lot of you. Because I just choose not to pig out all the time. I allow myself to be a little hungry some days. Like right now, it's 1:30. I haven't stopped and had my lunch yet. I'll probably eat something when I get to the truck. No big deal. I can let go of those human needs, those human desires. When I've been stranded in the bush, it's not any different really than being home if you refuse to go in the house. So listen, William fucking Wallace, it's not exactly like the English are coming around trying to sleep with your fat wife. Freedom! I could yell that as loud as I want here. No one would hear me. No one would care. The animals might get scared. So that brings me to the final point I want to make, which is who's behind this whole thing to begin with? Who are the organizers? So the GoFundMe people were Tamara Lick and BJ Dichter. You can't make names like that up. It's too funny. His name is actually Benjamin, I guess, but it's funnier if you call him BJ because that's what he is. People seem to forget, I guess it wasn't widely spread around, but I got the news from antihate.ca that Tamara Lick had gone missing in action with the money before GoFundMe shut it down. And I seen the video of the real Pat King himself saying so. So yes, GoFundMe shut down the money, and the Attorney General of Texas is mad because his right-wing fucking bunch of Americans there sent money to destroy Canadian democracy. And we're used to Americans doing that kind of thing around the world, but usually it's the CIA, not just average American citizens trying to meddle with the democracy of their nearby country. There you have freedom, but yeah, American freedom. Is that what we want? Is that our Canadian identity? More American politics? Then you get another one of the big guys, the real Pat King. He calls himself the real Pat King because the guy lies so much that he's got to convince you that he's at least real, even if his claims that all the Ottawa cops are going to resign. That didn't come to pass. What was his other claim? He said by Monday Trudeau's going to be out, a week or two ago. But what happened Monday was actually Aaron O'Toole got fired, basically. So there's another huge lie, but the guy just keeps lying. And you just keep listening. Then you got Chris Saakashidosha, also known as Chris Sky. And this particular asshole is also, like the other three aforementioned, a white supremacist who's organized in this country. So their whole idea of a border protest about opening the border for truckers is hilarious to me, because these are the same people that if you have an Iranian family, refugees needing to stay in Canada, they're behind closing the border. So they're pretty confused as to what side they're actually on. Are they for the border being open, or are they for the border being closed? No one really knows. And freedom, you're not for freedom? You can't even, you say it's a free thinking kind of crowd you got there, but if you say something other than the line, they're going to say, what, you don't believe in freedom? So the debate's been narrowed to such a point you can't even talk about it. Therefore, a free thought is discouraged. What is the border anyways? It's a bunch of human make-believe bullshit. It's a line that was drawn, and they say this is this and this is that. Gates and cops and things to stop you from going from one side to the other. But it's just a human invention. You got to believe in Canada the same way the religious people believe in God. The Canadian geese don't agree. They don't carry passports. They don't go across the border thinking they're across the border. They don't care. In fact, they don't even consider themselves Canadian geese. If you ask a goose what they call themselves, they'd say, honk! Just like you guys in Ottawa. Just a gaggle of geese honking around. I'm not going to let anyone tell me what my version of freedom is like. Whether it's this or that, or this law or that policy, or doing this or doing that. Hey, every time I'm sitting out here where there's no Wi-Fi or cell service, and I'm living in freedom because no one's going to call me right now and bother me with bullshit. I'm completely distracted and distanced from the world of nonsense that's going on out there. You want freedom? It lives in the wilderness. If you want a jail cell, just keep honking around and making veiled threats of violence. Your freedom is going to turn itself into imprisonment. I also just got to say, I don't care if you're vaccinated or not. It's not my business. It's not my problem. What I do care about is people just lying and making up nonsense, saying things that aren't true, and engaging in bizarre methods and rituals of belief. Do what you want. If you're scared of getting a needle, then be scared. That's your problem, not mine. But hey, 80 or 90% of Canadians got the needle. You don't speak for all of us.